What is up, my Yugi Bros? I'm the one, the only, the RJB0. Welcome to the business casual edition of the Next Great Yugituber. So I've always thought the viruses were three of the craziest cards in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because unlike a standard floodgate card, the viruses don't simply freeze up a resource until your opponent draws an out for them. Now, don't get me wrong, that is good enough as it is, but the viruses have something special. They demolish that resource for the next 3 turns, and if you somehow manage to not win in the 3 free turns that the virus gives you, your opponent is still going to be strapped for plays once the effect has worn off, because you have spent those 3 turns demolishing their most important resource in their deck. Now, thankfully, 2 of the most powerful viruses, the 2 most powerful viruses, I guess, have been essentially taken out of the game. Crush card is banned and should stay that way, and Eradicator is limited, which to some degree makes it useless because you're statistically almost never going to draw it. However, Deck Devastation virus is still going strong, and I would argue that Deck Devi is easier to put on the board and is better now than it has ever been before. The reason why I say this is because the current pool of extra deck monsters makes it so that almost any deck that can reach into the extra deck consistently can pull out the fuel necessary to lay down the smackdown with DDV. For instance, a rank 4 deck can almost always go for Cairn Gorgon, or Crazy Box, or Black Ship of Corn, which are 3 cards that already have some utility in this format, which means players are already running it. So it isn't a matter of freeing up extra deck space in order to use DDV. Rank 4 decks don't even have the monopoly on the ability to use this card. Rank 7 base decks can use Big Eye, decks that can go for level 8 synchros consistently, can use Colossal Fighter, even decks that only really consistently go for rank 3 undercards can put Downer Magician down, which is a target for DDV. So DDV is actually extremely easy in comparison to previous formats to use in this current format and going into the future. This format even has some pretty spectacular matchups for DDV in the form of Madolche, Girgia, and Sylvans mainly, since those archetypes almost unilaterally lose to Deck Devastation virus. I suppose with the exception of Girgia Gear and a couple of Sylvan cards, but for the most part, those cards are easily taken off the board because of the abundance of removal of this format. But the real problem for DDV in this current format is the extreme amount of trap negation. Most of the decks that lose to DDV also run 3 wiretaps, so that is kind of an issue, but it isn't even necessarily that big of an issue, because a lot of these decks that run triple wiretap don't run a lot of defensive back row, which means that you can grind through their defensive back row and then blindly MST the last card with a fair amount of confidence that is going to be their trap negator. So that shouldn't be that much of an issue, and even if it was, a lot of the decks that can use DDV also run trap negators, like for instance Girgia, which can make a Cairn Gorgon in the blink of an eye, usually runs 3 wiretaps. The guy who did well at ARGCS even ran 2 7 Tools of the Bandit, so if your opponent wiretaps your DDV, you can just wiretap their wiretap and you don't really have an issue. But DDV is a card we do have to look out for going into the future because of the ease with which decks these days can lay down this card. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't, let me know why in the comment section below. And of course, check out my channel and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next round. I got a jet.